Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna try to not be as loud as I can be because my parents are downstairs watching baseball. Um, so this was a review. I'm not sure when I'm gonna get to reviewing Hellboy. I'm not sure if I'm gonna feel like reviewing it this week and then watching another movie for another movie meeting that I have with my friends. I really don't feel like doing it. So this movie is the 1976 version of A Star is Born, which it was originally done in 37, then 54. So it seems like every couple decades there's a reimagining of the story. But the longest period of time was between versions was this one, which came out in 76, and then the Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga version that came out in 2018. So that was about a 42-year age gap. And I saw this movie recently, so I might as well pick it because this movie is not very good, and it's been a long time since I've reviewed a bad movie, so it was kind of fun to do that. So I do have a lot of criticisms with the film, but first, the storyline is it's based. I think most people know the story by now because of the recent incarnation, which is we have an aging musician who's down in his luck, a young starlet who shows a lot of promise. They fall in love. The young blood's career goes up, and the aging star's career goes down. And they fall in love. It's this really melodramatic love story. And having seen this version of the story with Kris Kristofferson as John Norman Howard, the troubled musician, and Barbra Streisand, I mean, they were two well known singers at the time, and they still are. My major problem right off the bat is that while Christopherson was 40, so he was kind of at the right age for his character, but Streisand was half a decade younger than uh, Christopherson. So I'm having a hard time buying her as a young, innocent, fresh faced kid when she's clearly in her 30s. I mean, the only female singer at the time that I could think of that could pull off that character well would probably have been Stevie Nicks, who was in her early 30, in her late 20s at that point. So that would have worked a little more. And another problem I have with the movie right off the bat is that this is meant to be a love story, and the relationship it's weird in the sense that this these two people meet at a club that Streisand's performing at. They Christopherson takes her home, comes back in the morning because he really wants to see her again, which they agree on, and he's doing a day concert. The concert goes bad because he rides a motorcycle being a stupid guy, and she ends up getting abandoned, and it's just like, oh, I think I love him. So it's just aside from the fact that the Christopherson character is rich and famous, I don't really see the appeal of the guy. And also, there's no chemistry between these two. You know, a good love story, whether it be in a book or in a movie, has to convince you that these two characters really do feel something for each other. In this movie, it just kind of feels like the actors are only doing it because it's in a script. It doesn't feel natural. And it just feels so weird. I mean, I understand in a movie you gotta speed things up, but this one they literally meet. They've known each other for like a week, and they're already Streisand's like, let's get married. It's just like, oh my god. Okay, no, it is really fast. That's one thing. Also, another thing that I thought was kind of dumb was that the crew and the groupies around Christopherson are constantly telling him to stop, to cut back on the drinking and lay off the drugs. Like Gary Busey is the worst offender of this, who plays Christopherson's manager. He's like, stop drinking. Keeps giving him Jack Daniels before every performance. don't do drugs. Lets him gives Kristofferson lines of coke to snort before a gig. It's like, wait, okay, you're telling him to lay off the drugs and the alcohol, and you're also enabling him to get more high and more drunk. What? Has that'd be like telling someone to stop looking at porn, and then they give someone a naked photo of a Playboy model. It's just like, oh my god, the hypocrisy. Um, and I will talk about some of the more positive things. The singing. It's Kristofferson and Barbra Streisand. They both know how to sing, so that was really well done. Um, I do feel like that this idea had potential. It was just that the execution of this idea is where it fell apart. But yeah, the musical scenes when Kristofferson isn't getting drunk and ruining them, uh, those are pretty good. In fact, this film won an Oscar for a few Oscars for the musical score and one of the songs, Evergreen. So that was positive. But I mean, the only real reason we get for Christopherson being a bad boy is that the fame has corrupted him, so he feels like he can get away and do whatever he wants. But there isn't really a clear reason why he's going down this self destructive path. And I watched this with my mother, and it was funny because she said that when she was 18 or 19 years old and saw the movie, she kind of felt more sympathy for Christopherson. But now, at this point, she kind of finds it annoying that he's repeatedly ruining himself, even though he knows he needs to turn his life around. To which I jokingly said she would just smack him in the face and tell him to get a life. So that's kind of funny. Um, and also, well, the video does say spoilers at the bottom, so if you're still watching this and then gonna get mad at me for giving away the ending, you only have yourself to blame, buddy. So, the ending of this movie, it ends tragically, and the build up to the death of Christopherson's character is so telegraphed. You can completely see it coming. It's the scene probably lasts about 3.5, 4 minutes of him driving before he crashes, and it's just like that was way too long. Like it could have easily been like a minute and a half scene, and that would have had more impact. And as I said, Kris Kristofferson himself in this movie, I guess. Um, but yeah, I didn't. I felt nothing in that scene for that character. And that's not a good sign for to have a main character die and then have your audience or at least me not feel anything for the character. That's pretty sad. Um and another thing I would say about this movie is that it's too long. I don't know why it decided to be a 2.5 hour movie. I mean, okay, technically it's 2 hours and 22 minutes, but that scene should have been cut down. There are a lot of other scenes that could have been trimmed in several places. It felt like a vanity project for these two musicians that were trying to keep the fame going. And I don't know. Maybe one of the people that they approached to play the Christopherson character was Kenny Loggins, and Kenny turned it down. This would probably be a hard movie for me to watch, being a huge Kenny Loggins fan. That probably would have made it really hard for me to criticize this film. But um, this movie is far more style over substance, and I will say this: I do want to see the Lady Gaga Bradley Cooper version of the story because I've heard that movie's actually good. So I would definitely like to watch that to see a good version of this story. And I again, I apologize for spoiling the ending, but come on. It's 44 years old. Who cares anymore? This movie tries so hard to be dramatic and poetic. It's laughable. You know? I mean, for all the reasons I stated before, the people trying to tell Kristofferson to stop doing drugs and they keep handing them buttloads of it. Um, the romance we're supposed to buy between two characters that have no chemistry, and a death that doesn't feel as painful because the character was not that engaging or interesting to follow. So, it may sound like I hate this movie, but in all fairness, I actually find it is funny of how serious it takes itself, but I don't know. You you might need a few drinks to get through this movie if you're watching this as someone like me who wasn't around in the 70s. So anyway, that's all for this week. I might do an extra review to keep pace, but I'm definitely going to make sure that my next Bruce Springsteen cover comes out on Monday and not on Friday. So, good evening, good night, everybody.